Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is going to be for Teen Wolf Season 4, Episode 8, Time of Death. And this episode was just amazing. Really, it was absolutely amazing. By far the best episode of the season. Once again, best episode of the season. Especially the ending and the beginning. The beginning really made me, the beginning was huge, definitely. And I just love pretty much everything about this episode. I thought this episode was absolutely amazing. Really loved it. And, yeah, let's just get to it. So in the beginning, we see Stiles, and he's sleeping with Malia. What? I mean, I was just going like, what? They just broke up. So they're sleeping and everything. And it's a really cute scene, definitely. It's all about like being spooned and things like that. Stiles couldn't sleep unless he was in the middle of the bed. I thought that was definitely very funny, and it makes Stiles happy. Malia was a big spoon, while Stiles was a little spoon. I thought that was cute, but it turns out that it's all just a dream. Which, honestly, is it's really sad, because I really like Stiles and Malia together, and unfortunately they had to break them up. I understand they want to break up couples, but, I mean, that was just really sad. A really sad scene to see. A great way to start off the episode. It was sad, but it was a great way to start off the episode. So Agent McCall is still reeling from the events of last episode, which, he put a bullet, through the head of a guy who wanted to kill Stiles, and Scott overheard the conversation. Agent McCall told Scott that he was going to San Francisco for a while and wanted to know a few things when he got back. So he was alarmed that Scott and the gang weren't phased by what was happening all around them. He said, when I get back, I'd like to be in the known. He said, we shall see about that. So it will definitely be interesting to see if that actually does happen, if he is in the known of what's going on. So, yeah, Agent McCall apparently is taking off, and we'll have to see what ends up happening. But then we see Scott, Liam, Stiles, and Kira. They're coming up with a way to trick the benefactor into revealing himself, because the benefactor obviously is not revealing himself. They really want to know who he is. They're really getting sick of them not knowing who he is. And, yeah, so that's basically what's happening. And basically, in a hospital, a patient comes in coding, the doctor pronounces him dead, and we find out that the person is Scott. And I was like, what? They can't kill us, Scott. He's the main character. I mean, it's like time of death this time, and it's like he is dead. So basically, we see Melissa breaking down after learning her son has died. And I mean, really, that was such a hard scene to watch, because I really thought Scott died in that scene. I'm not kidding, I really thought Scott died. But then we see a flashback, so we know what's really going on. This way, it's like, okay, we know what's really going on. Basically, Kira has slowed Scott's heart rate to a beat, so he looks like he is dead. Basically, that's the plan. So, in the morning, Melissa joins the gang. Luckily, Melissa knows about the plan, but she does not like the plan because he looks dead. And Kira's mom places Melissa's hand on Scott's chest to let her feel his subtle but heartbeats. And Kira's mom says that this heart rate is enough to keep an alpha alive for 45 minutes. Any longer in this state, and he'll die. So they only have 45 minutes to keep him this way. So, yeah, they have 45 minutes. So, basically, Stiles and Mr. Argent are, Stiles and Chris, they're attempting to contact the benefactor who wants visual confirmation of Scott's body. They want the benefactor to think that Scott is dead. And Mr. Argent tells him to come collect the body himself, but the benefactor seems a bit, hard-headed. And, Chris tells him via the instant messaging system that he'll come find him if he doesn't abide by his rules. So they help the gang set up security cameras in the hospital, and Scott appears to actually wake up in the school, but he's actually dreaming or trapped in some nightmarish state after being put in this death-like coma. So yeah, I definitely thought that was interesting. So basically, Malia and Mrs. Y, and Mrs. Yukamara, they keep watching in the car in the parking lot, and Melissa's wondering aloud why they, as parents, are allowing their children to fight these kind of fights. And I really like this scene because it's true, why would they, as parents, let their children fight this way? I mean, they're just teenagers. They could get seriously hurt, and I definitely thought this was a good scene, because Miss Yukamara says that they allow it because if they don't, then they are in the way of asking their children to run away and hide from the evils in the world. And that's true, what she's saying, definitely, I agree with that. So, one of the cameras on the computer shorts out. Kira and Liam go to the roof to investigate, because they don't know what's really going on there. And basically, Scott is still trapped in his nightmarish world. And Kira and Liam, they arrive on the roof. They run into a berserker. The power has been cut to the entire hospital. And Kira draws her sword. So, Chris goes through the hospital, bumps into Stiles, who says that the power has been lost everywhere. They have no power now. It's all gone. And Basically, Liam attempts to fight the Berserker, and he's knocked out. Kira's trying to fight as well, and is also knocked out. She's punched in the face very, very hard, and Kira is dazed, but eventually shaken awake by Liam. And we actually, we got a scene. We saw a scene with Kira and Scott, which I'll talk about. But basically, Mrs. Yukamura and Melissa go through the hospital looking for the kids. Stiles, Kira, and Liam have abandoned their posts, obviously, and Stiles is in the morgue trying to phone Chris. And Chris is thrown into the morgue, and he shouts, "Stiles, run!" But before he can react, Kate walks in. Yes, Kate is back in this episode, and when Kate comes in, you know shit's gonna go down. Because Kate wants Scott's body, but she won't tell Chris and Stiles why, though she does say that she's not the benefactor. So, yeah, she makes sure that she's not the benefactor. And basically, Kate and Chris end up facing off. He tries to talk her down. He tells her to leave to let them fulfill their plan and take the Berserkers along with her. And she seems to agree. She seems to agree about that. So, yeah, she agrees about that, basically. And Scott is still struggling in his nightmare in it. He's still killing Liam with the mute's tomahawk. And Kira brings him back, but Mrs. Yukamura is badly injured. Kate runs down into the sewers where she meets up with Peter. And we'll get to what happened with Peter in a second. Basically... So yeah, everything, and that's basically what ended up happening there. And basically, in Kira's room, Scott says that even though they might not have seen the benefactor, it might have actually worked. Because what type of person do they know of who can sense death even without visual confirmation? A banshee. Now, speaking of a banshee, let's jump into Lydia's storyline. Because in order to talk about the end of this episode, we have to talk about what happened with Lydia. But overall, I really love the main plot. That was definitely really well done. Let's get to Lydia. Lydia had a lot of stuff to do in this episode, and Lydia's plot was, like, really, really good in this episode, in my opinion. She's still at that lake house, trying to discover a strange connection, if there is one, to Meredith, and someone sneaks up on her in the boathouse, and it turns out it's her mother. Now, Lydia's mom is worried about her, says that she'd like to know what's going on with her, and that if she can, she'd like to help. Lydia gives in, shows her mother the photo of Meredith, and she says, "Do you know her?" And Lydia asks Meredith, and, her mom says, "Meredith Walker?" The surprise in her voice is apparent, leading us to believe that she actually knows about Meredith's path, maybe even her existence as a banshee. So, does Lydia's mom actually know all this stuff? That's what's interesting here, is does she actually know what's going on? Basically, I'm thinking that Lydia's mom might actually know what's going on here. Because Lydia's mother reveals that her grandmother died in Eichen House, and she was there because she supposedly heard voices. And she then reveals that her grandmother wanted her to spread her ashes across the lake once she turned 18. And Lydia's mother says that now is a good time as any, given the fact that she'll be 18 in a couple of weeks. So Lydia opens the urn filled with ashes. She says that these aren't her grandmother's ashes, it's mountain ash. And she says it's all made of mountain ash. She looks around at that lake house structure. She does not know what's going on at this point. And basically, Lydia is given a note. Lydia's mother says that this was the last thing she ever wrote down, but it's all nonsense. And basically, it's like a bunch of numbers and letters, which of course we know that those numbers and letters could, is what the benefactor does. So Lydia says, "Are you sure Grandma's dead?" And she looks down at the note, and it's a code, just like the Deadpool, which means that Lydia's grandmother could be the benefactor. And that is an awesome twist there. I love that twist. It is a character we've never even met is the benefactor. I think that is an awesome twist what they did right there. Love that twist. Think that is really awesome. Really love that. Awesome stuff there. Just really, really love that twist. Really great twist there. I mean, we'll talk about more of that when we get to our predictions. But now, the last few things I want to talk about. First off is Malia and Peter. Malia, of course, last week found out that Peter is her father. So, of course, Malia wants to, help out Peter, basically. So, Malia is looking through the Hale vault. She gets a phone call from Stiles, but chooses to ignore it. She breaks into one of the safes, finds a folder labeled Malia Tate's adoption records. And Peter walks in and says, I've got to buy a better safe. And he tells her that she can't leave with those documents, but he allows her to read the documents. He's like, what, fine, you can read the documents. And she looks through the adoption file, but says there's no information in there that tells her anything. And Peter is revealing that he paid a lot of money to get his hands on that information. And he said that the only problem with only hearing one side of the story is that you only get one side. He must know something else and seems to be offering to tell her more, because there's definitely something else going on here. So Peter says that they might know who Malia's mother is. That's what she's trying to find out, is who her mother is. And she supposedly goes by an alias, which is the Desert Wolf. and he tries to convince her that he's not the benefactor. You know, he tells her, I'm not the benefactor, and that even though his name isn't on the dead pool, he's not the benefactor. He says he's trying to do a kindness to prove, to tell to her that he's telling the truth. He wants to find, because of course he wants to be a good father to her. I mean, he hasn't really seen his daughter in a while, so obviously he wants to be a good father to her. So he wants to find her mother just as much as anyone, because his sister Talia stole the memory from him before she died. So he still doesn't know who his wife is, so, you know, he still doesn't remember. So, I mean, that definitely is very interesting there. And what ends up happening is Peter does end up meeting up with Kate, and basically what ends up happening is that, you know, basically, Kate and Chris, you know, they're facing off, and he tries to talk her down. He tells her to leave to let them fulfill their plan, to take the Berserkers along with her, and she seems to agree, basically. So I thought that was definitely very interesting. And basically, Kate runs down into the sewers. She meets up with Peter, and he says, you are right, he's still alive, and Peter says, thank God. So, yeah, Peter and Kate are still working together. I don't know what's going to happen here, but Peter and Kate are still working together, and I don't really know what's going to happen in terms of Peter and Kate. Definitely, it's very interesting. So, the last thing I talk about is Derek and Braeden. Derek and Braeden, I really like them together. I really hope that they get together. They had a lot of chemistry in this episode. And, basically, Braeden is spending the night at Derek. She goes over to him and asks why his big wound isn't healing. Now, of course, we know that Derek said that he's losing his powers. So, obviously, since he's losing his powers, it's not healing because I'm thinking he's dying. Because remember, Derek was on the Deadpool's list, and he's not dead yet. So Derek reveals to Braeden that he's losing his powers, and it was a very hard scene, definitely, when he told her. I really felt bad for them, because it's like, he had to tell her he's losing his powers, and I just felt bad for him in that scene. I don't know why, I just did. Really, I did. But Braeden teaches Derek how to use a gun, but, you know, as she's teaching him how to use a gun, they end up making out, and they actually end up having sex, surprisingly. I'm not surprised with this, because I've wanted them together, definitely. So yeah, I was a little surprised, but you know what, I'm like, you know what, good for Derek, definitely. Because knowing Derek might die this season, at least he got one more romance. So basically, after a circle with Braeden, Derek gets up, checks out Braeden's tables of guns, and, they might possibly be starting a relationship there. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. I'm pretty sure that's all that happened in the episode. Was there anything else that happened? I'm trying to remember. Let me see. No, I think that's pretty much all that happened, pretty much, as far as the episode went. But now we have to talk about the biggest thing, which is Lydia's grandmother the benefactor? I'm thinking yes, because it does make sense. But it doesn't exactly make sense, because it's the character we've never met, really. And I don't really like it when shows make someone a character we've never met. However, if it is Lydia's grandmother, that's a great twist right there. I love that twist. I think it's a really awesome way to end the episode. But I really don't know if Lydia, you know, if Lydia's grandmother is the benefactor. We know that it's not Kate. We know that it's not Peter. They confirmed it in this episode. So what are Kate and Peter actually trying to do? You know, they're definitely working together. Something's going on there. Is Malia going to find her grandmother? I really want her to find her grandmother. I don't know if she's going to, but I really want her to. She really needs to find her grandmother soon. I really hope she finds her grandmother. Now, as far as Derek and Braeden go, I like that they're together. I like that they're together. I think it's a sweet scene between the two of them. Also, Scott and Kira, they're getting very close, and they actually want to go on their first actual date. So I'm wondering if that actually does end up happening for them. I really hope they do, because I like Scott and Kira together. I still love Scott and Allison the most. You know, even though Allison's dead, I will always love Allison the most. But Scott and Kira, I like them together. I do. I think they're cute together. I like them together. And that's really all I gotta say about them. I really like them together. So yeah, as I said, I really do like them together. And then the other big thing, of course, is are Scott and Kira going to find the benefactor, you know, before Lydia does, you know, because it could be Lydia's grandmother. Are they going to find the benefactor? Did Scott's plan actually work? Because Scott's pretty convinced that his plan works, so I don't know if it actually worked. We'll have to see what happens there, but I'm thinking, you know, Scott pretty much thinks his plan worked. But yeah, overall, I love this episode. By far the best episode of the season. So many great things happened in this episode. And that's basically it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys in my next review, which will be my review for tonight's episode of Pretty Little Liars. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.